The moon was a pale sliver above the jewel of Et when Quaithe's shadow slid across the terrace of Zarozoan Daxos's manse. A breeze heavy with myrrh and cinnamon rattled the silver chimes, scattering their soft notes across the perfumed gardens. Daenerys Targaryen stood at the balustrade, one hand resting on the warm marble, the other stroking the tiny spine-ridged back of Viserion where he perched upon her shoulder. The dragonlet's white wings rustled and folded, pearl scales catching moonlight. "You are the blood of the dragon," Quaithe murmured, voice distant, masked eyes reflecting 1,000 stars. "The longer you linger, the longer the sands rise around your feet. Sail now, or the tide will swallow you." Dany felt the old ache in her heart, Viserys' cry of wait. Her own fear of reaching too soon for a destiny still mist-bathed. Yet the painted mask showed neither impatience nor pity, only certainty. And certainty, she realized, was what her followers craved in her. She thanked Quaithe with a queen's cool nod. When she turned away, the Shadowbinder was already melting into candle smoke, vanishing among the moon-bleached walls. The bells sang one last trembling chord, then fell silent. By dawn, she summoned Ser Jorah, Aggo, Rakaro, and Irri to the great court of carved lapis. The pale light of early morning spilled through the colonnades in golden ladders, painting the court with shifting bars of fire and shadow. Drogon, largest of her children, crouched upon the dais behind her, crimson wings mantling the throne couch like banners of open war. "We sail," Daenerys announced, her high Valyrian as sharp as the sea breeze rising beyond Qarth's walls. "Today, before sunset, on whatever hulls we can claim." Ser Jorah's gray-green eyes flickered, weighing peril against purpose. "If we press the 13 for coin, we might find enough merchantmen." "No more begging," she cut in. "Xaro's generosity hides chains. I will buy or seize what I need." A single scaled growl from Drogon punctuated her words. The Unsullied, only 89 remained of those who had survived Astapor's block, lifted their spears in silent assent. Beside them, what was left of her Khalasar, some 200 riders and twice as many camp followers, breathed out a low, eager murmur. The sea meant fear for many horse lords, but war promised plunder, and the name Targaryen still awakened ancient echoes of fire-made glory. Securing ships in a city famed for perfumed lies required both gold and menace. Gold she had little of, menace the dragons provided. Drogon's spreading shadow persuaded 3 Summer Island captains that service beneath the Dragon Queen would yield richer legend than trade in spices. Qarth's Sea Lord, Quaithe Raveneye, added 2 squat dromons rather than suffer Drogon's attentions upon his flagship harboring 300 silk bales, combined with the decrepit cog she already owned. The Balerion, whose worm-ridden keel sorrowful Jorah swore was held together by cockroaches praying to drown. Daenerys commanded a fleet of 6. On the second day, the Summer Islander vessels unfurled sun-painted canvas. The screaming of gulls mixed with the crack of lines as oarsmen slid into measured rhythm. Qarth's watergates receded, gold-spired minarets shrinking into haze. The summer sea opened before them, sapphire under a cloudless sky. Daenerys watched the city fade, feeling as though a hand unclasped from her throat. She breathed deeply, salt, tar, dragon scent, and tasted a freedom too long postponed. It began as a voyage of hunger, not hunger of the belly, though dried goat grew monotonous, but hunger of the spirit. Each evening, she sat on the quarterdeck of the Swan of Summer, sifting through the scrolls Illyrio Mopatis had pressed upon Viserys years past. Records of lords still loyal to House Targaryen, of sellswords willing to gamble for a crown. She read by the faint luminance of dragonfire while Ser Jorah's heavy boots paced a protective circle. Behind her, sailors whispered that the night itself bent toward the Queen of Flames. By day, she studied her dragons. With sea wind to ride, Drogon discovered joy, soaring along the white-tipped waves, banking between masts. Regal hunted gulls, quick green darts above foam, and Viserion clung to the rigging, crooning at spray-lit rainbows. Their wings strengthened, their appetites doubled. Dany fed them fish by her own hand, scales cold as coins against her palms. Watching them grow became an act of faith. One still night, when the summer sea lay black and unbroken beneath a cloak of stars, she dreamed of King's Landing. Not the ash-choked ruin of her visions in the House of the Undying, but a city all aflame with jubilation. Bells rang wild across the red keep while dragons circled crimson banners embroidered with three-headed dragons wrought in new gold. She stood upon the battlements in armor the hue of dark rubies, wind blowing silver hair across her lips. A crown of swords rested on her brow. She woke with salt on her tongue, certain it was the taste of Westerosi tears. The storm found them 4 days shy of Noth. Black walls of cloud reared on the western horizon at mid-afternoon, devouring the sun within an hour. The sea boiled slate beneath whips of rain. Lightning shattered the sky, turning rigging into skeletal silhouettes etched against sheets of blinding fire. The cog Balerion, already wounded, snapped a mast like a candle stem and vanished astern into curtains of spray. Aboard the Swan, sailors fought the wheel while Daenerys lashed herself to the rail. Waves smashed emerald over the decks, swept men screaming into the dark. Drogon shrieked defiance, crimson wings hammering against the gale. Viserion and Regal clung to the mainsail, eyes glowing lamps of pale gold. When the main yard cracked, Daenerys felt an answering crack inside her ribs. She called her children, voice raw as torn silk. Fire answered. Drogon's jaws birthed a lance of orange that hissed across the rain, striking the waters in a flash of steam. For an instant, the tempest recoiled, stunned by heat. "Hold fast!" she cried into the roiling void. Her Khalasar war cried back, a chorus of fearless, as if desert riders might tame the sea with their throats. Ser Jorah seized the wheel with 2 sailors and forced the Swan's bow into the waves. Steel groaned like dying giants. Through lightning strobe, Daenerys glimpsed Quaithe standing upon the undulating deck, though she knew the Shadowbinder had remained in Qarth. Masked face calm, robe dry despite the deluge. An illusion. Yet in that impossible vision, Quaithe raised a gloved hand and pointed north. Beyond the storm lay Westeros. Beyond the storm lay her home. She shouted wordless fury, daring the storm to deny her. The gale answered with a roar, then broke. As storms sometimes do, so swiftly it felt like mercy. The black wall thinned, shredded, collapsed into distant thunder. Only sullen rollers remained. At sunrise, they found Balerion half sunk but afloat, lashed to the summer child by a spiderweb of ropes. Losses totaled 6 sailors and 1 unsullied, drowned when the mizzenmast of the Sea Lord's gift tore loose. A heavy price, yet Daenerys whispered thanks to whatever gods had guided them. The dragons, uninjured, preened upon the forecastle. Ser Jorah leaned nearby, beard gleaming with salt crystals. "Storms are fickle friends, yet we endure. We endure," she echoed. She could not yet see Westeros, but she tasted it in the air. A promise riding the wind from far horizons. Their course angled northwest, avoiding Valeria's smoking shores. By the time the Basilisk Isles' jungle-clad peaks rose from mist, word spread that war engulfed the Sunset Kingdoms. The War of 5 Kings, sailors named it, spinning rumor like yarn. Renly slain by Shadow, Stannis broken on Blackwater deck, Robb Stark crowned beneath the weirwoods, Joffrey enthroned but bleeding coffers as Tywin's gold ships marched. Daenerys listened, silent, to every gossip-ridden tongue. At night she unrolled Illyrio's parchment, reading names. Lords Aeron loyal, Lords Baratheon rebellious, Varys's whispers of Targaryen sympathizers in Dorne. The Martells. She lingered on that sigil. A sun-pierced spear. Once, a Dornish woman loved her brother Rhaegar enough to birth a stillborn dream. Perhaps Dorne might love Rhaegar's sister too. Yet love alone would not win Westeros. She needed banners, a host to match the warring kings, and ships more than 6 to carry them. Off the island of Torturers Deep, they anchored to take on fresh water. The forest stood silent as a grave. Riccaro's scouting party returned at dusk, bearing strange fruits and stranger tales of carved wooden gods whose eyes wept pitch. That night, Fires burned upon the beach and Dothraki riders danced with curved swords under watchful stars, while unsullied drummed shields in solemn cadence. Daenerys walked among them, accepting bowls of fermented coconut liquor, her laughter bright as the sparks swirling upward. In their fierce eyes she saw more than survival. She saw a people made whole by purpose. The Khalasar had become a fleet, and the fleet would become an army. The thought set fire in her blood. 2 weeks later, the Sea Lanes delivered a gift. The Myrish Carrack Golden Manticore, limp-sailed and listing, its crew paralyzed by flux. No captain raised arms when Drogon descended in a bellow of fire. Daenerys accepted their surrender beneath the red spray of dawn, promising cure and coin in return for fealty. Maester Calero, stolen years earlier from a Giscari galley, administered nettle tea and boiled water. Soon the Myrish mariners bowed, pledging hull and heart. 7 ships now. Aboard the Golden Manticore she discovered casks of Myrish fire wine, bolts of patterned silk, and, most precious, a chest of war crossbows strung with sinew soaked in basilisk blood, weapons fit for a royal guard. She ordered them stored, though Ser Jorah frowned at foreign craftsmanship. "A sword sings truer," he muttered. "A dragon sings loudest," she replied. He only smiled, weather creasing at the corners of his eyes. On a glass-still morning, the purple hills of Lys came into view. Marble villas perched above turquoise lagoons, scented smoke curling from bathhouses. Anchoring outside the harbor, Daenerys took the Swan's longboat under banner of the three-headed dragon. Lyseni harbor masters, accustomed to spice princes and Sellsword captains, stared wide-eyed at the silver-haired girl flanked by 3 leathery-winged nightmares. When Drogon perched upon the gangway, the Lyseni surrendered dock fees and offered pearls the size of pigeons' eggs. Yet queenly coffers demanded more. In the Silk-White district, brothel keepers paid in gold not to host a single dragon wing across their perfumed balconies. At the Three Reeds auction yard, Daenerys purchased 40 slaves only to free them 90 heartbeats later, turning their chains into pay money for her coffers. Some fled, unbelieving. Most knelt, swearing sword or tool. She took them all. Even the Lyseni account scrivener who had once tallied human flesh now tallied dragon-bought wheat, and smiled as though shackles had fallen from his own wrists. It was in Lys she learned of Pentos's secret envoy. A fat merchant from the east, sailing under false colors, had anchored 3 days prior Illyrio Mopatis. The name curled smoke in her memory. Viserys' schemer, her gilded benefactor. She met him in a rose-marbled bath chamber, steam curling around his oiled girth. Illyrio's rings glittered like captive stars as he sprawled among cushions, face melting into wet smiles at each formal courtesy she offered. "My sweet princess, forgive me, my queen. This reunion gladdens my heart beyond measure. The Red Mountains themselves could not hinder me from your side." His flatteries did not impress her, yet his gifts did. 5 chests of coin, 3 of silver, 2 of gold, for Myrish lens makers sworn into her service. And, most vital, 2 heavy vellum maps tracing hidden coves along the Dornish coast where sympathetic merchants might land an army unseen by Lannister patrols. "Why so generous?" Ser Jorah asked when Illyrio retired to gorge upon sweetmeats. "Because," Daenerys answered, fingers tracing coastline on the map, "he wagers my victory against everyone else's ruin. And because he wishes to be master of coin when I sit my birthright." She let Ser Jorah voice caution. Inside she nursed determination. If Illyrio's coin bought troops, she would spend it. If his schemes bought betrayal, she would burn them and him to ash. A dragon repays every debt. Before departing Lys, she purchased 3 additional cogs, creaking but serviceable, and a compact warship called the Laughing Shadow, whose captain swore she once outran a Braavosi trireme in Fogcloak Strait. 10 ships now, enough to hazard the stepstones. They sailed north again, following the moonlit course of old Valyria's doom. Ash fell some nights, pale as snow. Drogon snarled at each drifting flake, sensing volcanic memory in the air. Daenerys embraced the omen. The world itself, it seemed, remembered dragonfire. When the first gull wheeled over the starboard bow, crying of distant cliffs, Ser Jorah knelt beside her at the stern castle rail. The wind carried the scent of pine and cold earth, so different from salt and jungle bloom. She knew that smell from dreams, always from dreams, and now it filled her lungs like wine. Westeros, Ser Jorah said quietly. The coast of Dorne, somewhere east of Planky Town by my reckoning. Her breath caught. Home. She was home, though she had never walked its soil. Yet she would not rush ashore like a child. Strategy required patience. Dorne had never forgiven the usurper for Elia Martell. Prince Doran, cautious and resigned, might nurse old embers yet. She ordered the fleet to anchor in a remote cove where sandstone cliffs rose like petrified sails. The Laughing Shadow slipped into a sea cave, deploying scouts clad in mottled cloaks. Ricardo rode inland mounted on a sand steed purchased in Lys, eager to taste new horizons. Unsullied fanned along the dunes, shields glinting in the harsh sun. As dusk bled crimson across the horizon, Dothraki rode flames of dust through the valleys, laughing at the wind. Daenerys made camp beneath a tilted arch of wind-carved stone. Dragons nested above, silhouettes against a birth of night sky aflame with fierce stars. She sat alone before the fire's crackling heart, listening to the tide gnaw stone below. Quaithe's words drifted back, carried on rising sparks. To go north you must journey south. To reach the light you must pass beneath the shadow. South had brought her to these shores. Beneath the shadow of doubt she had carried forward. Now light beckoned, just beyond the next horizon of war. She drew her cloak tight, feeling the warmth of embers and the deeper warmth of dragons circling overhead. Tomorrow she would send envoys to Sunspear. Tomorrow she would speak for House Targaryen, not as the beggar princess of the free cities, but as the unburnt, the breaker of chains, the mother of dragons, and the rightful queen of the Seven Kingdoms. A single wave shattered against the cliff, raining cool salt upon the flames. Sparks soared up like fleeting stars. Daenerys Targaryen smiled into the night, and the night, awed, smiled back. Morning spilled gold across the hidden camp. Already riders returned. Ricardo with reports of Dornish patrols lightly manned. Whispers of spies wearing the badge of a golden spear transfixed by sunburst. The captain of the Laughing Shadow brought tidings that a smuggler's cove lay 2 leagues west, abandoned save for crab boats, perfect for landing men unseen. She gathered commanders, Ser Jorah, Grey Worm, Ricardo, Calaro, the Lyseni captains, around a sand-etched map. Strategy formed like slow lightning. First, secure a treaty with Prince Doran. Second, use Dornish mountain passes to slip into the Reach, recruiting bannermen long resentful of Lannister coin. Third, raise dragons, literal and metaphorical, over King's Landing before the usurper's children could muster allies.
Patience, Ser Jorah.
The realm rests weary of war. A single bold strike may shatter 3 kings at once. No, she countered, stroking Drogon's jaw where it rested near her knee. Let them see me first as savior, not destroyer. When the Iron Throne crumbles, it will be from within. Plans spun like woven gold until the sun climbed overhead. By noon, runners departed across sand and scrub. One to Sunspear bearing a sealed scroll affixed with the 3-headed dragon in blood-red wax. Another toward a fishing village where rumor said Targaryen loyalists still lit lanterns on the Feast of Dragons. When evening came, Daenerys walked alone to the water's edge. The sea whispered around her boots, retreating in soft sighs. Drogon glided above, dark as unfolding dusk. Regal and Viserion played in shallows, wings spraying glittering fans under bronze light. Beyond the horizon, King's Landing sparkled like a jewel upon Aegon's crown. Somewhere within those walls, the Iron Throne waited, each blade sharp with remembered treachery. She felt its pull like gravity. "I come for you," she whispered to distant spires invisible yet vivid in her mind. "And I do not come alone." Flames danced across the darkening sky as Drogon roared, a sound of deep bell towers ringing doom and deliverance in a single breath. In the stillness that followed, Daenerys Targaryen felt no more doubt. She felt only the tide surging at her feet and the slow, relentless turning of the world, as inevitable as fire seeking fuel. And thus the dragon's shadow lengthened across the sands of Dorne, heralding a dawn Westeros had not known for 150 years. A dawn born in blood and flame and the unbreakable will of a silver-haired queen. The ravens came at twilight, their sable wings beating hard against the onshore wind that smelled of rosemary and brine. 3 birds, 3 scrolls, 3 paths folding toward one destiny. Daenerys Targaryen read all 3 by the dragonfire glow of a driftwood brazier. The first bore Prince Doran Martell's cipher, a son transfixed by spearhead. He greeted her as Princess Daenerys of House Targaryen, rightful queen, and invited discreet parley at the water gardens within 10 days. His words dripped measured courtesy but also a hidden heat, like river water scorched under noon. The second scroll, penned by Arianne Martell in a hand both graceful and impatient, urged immediate alliance, less diplomatic than her father, more daring. Come swiftly, for every dawn delayed emboldens the lion. The third, and signed save for a sigil of crossed keys, named secret sympathizers in Old Town, with promises to unlock citadel vaults long shuttered against Targaryen lore. Daenerys sealed each parchment again in wax pressed beneath her dragon brooch. She felt the shape of war, still embryonic, quicken in her belly the way her dragons had quickened inside the smoldering womb of Khal Drogo's pyre. Another hatching neared. At pre-dawn she summoned Grey Worm, Rakaro, and Ser Jorah to the canvas command tent set beneath the arching skeletal ribs of some long-dead sea monster. Outside, the cindered sky bled charcoal streaks into a pale blush that foretold summer's cruelty upon the desert coast. Drogon slept coiled atop a shoulder of cliff above camp, tail flicking like a cat's in dream hunt, yet Regal and Viserion kept watch, their silhouettes blacker than night as they surveyed the dunes. "We ride to Sunspear," she told them, voice low so as not to wake the still groggy camp. 100 unsullied in full array. FTY riders with banners furled, myself and my blood riders. The fleet remains hidden till my word returns. I leave the Lyseni captains under Captain Kadaro and Maester Calero. They sail at first hint of betrayal, east if Dorne proves false, north if Dorne stands true.
Se juras bro furuba.
If Prince Doran means treachery, 100 men are scant shield. Dragons are stronger armor, she replied, and though the bear's grim mouth pressed further, he could not deny it. Drogon's wingspan alone cowed legions. If Dorne planned to betray her, they would need 100 scorpions, not 100 spearmen, to pierce his hide. Grey Worm touched fist to breast. The unsullied will march where you command, blood of my blood. Rakaro's dark eyes gleamed with challenge. Khaleesi sails water like wind. Now the Khalasar rides. The red lions scent drifts upon these sands. We will hunt. She clasped each man's wrist in turn, speaking brave words yet feeling each vow settle on her shoulders like another link in an invisible mail shirt. Weight of promise, weight of blood yet unshed. They set out at dawn's full bloom. Sandstone escarpments baked beneath the rising furnace, and the air shimmered in wavering sheets. The unsullied marched with inhuman precision. Dornish spears reversed, shields gauze wrapped to muffle their telltale clang. The Dothraki stole ahead, lean silhouettes atop fleet sandsteeds that barely seemed to touch earth. Above them, the dragons rode thermals, sometimes vanishing behind mirages only to burst forth again with maddening abruptness, like sparks leaping from unseen flint. For 3 days they hugged dry gullies and secret goat trails taught by smuggler guides. 3 times they glimpsed Dornish patrol banners whipping in the glare. 3 times Rakaro's outriders whistled warning, slipping past unseen as their painted shields mimicked desert scrub. On the 4th morning, they reached the Bloodway, that ribbon of gravel road twisting through dunes toward Sunspear's sea-lapped walls. It was here, at a bend flanked by carved sandstone pillars depicting Rhoynar queens, that Prince Doran's escort awaited them. 20 guards in scaled copper, 2 sand-skinned palanquins borne by 8 men each, and at their head a young woman whose hair flashed obsidian in the sun. A red silk scarf concealed half her face but could not hide the proud curve of her jaw or the defiant lift of her chin. "I am Arianne Martell," she announced over the hiss of wind, "daughter of Sunspear, Storm of Dorne, and I bid Daenerys Targaryen welcome." Daenerys answered from the saddle of her pale silver mare. I come not as supplicant, princess, but as ally. Will your father see me as such? My father sees much, Aerion answered. Too much, some whisper. Yet even he cannot see dragons until they descend upon his walls. Her gaze flitted skyward where Drogon circled, vast shadow sliding over the dunes. He will receive you beneath roof and fountain mist. As ally, though allies should break bread, not bones. Let us break bread then, Daenerys said. For bones will break soon enough elsewhere. Arion's laugh was soft sand sliding through fingers. She gestured to a palanquin whose curtains fluttered like a heart's chamber opening. Ride with me, your grace. The rest may follow as dust follows hoof. The water gardens shimmered like a dream pin to sun-bleached dunes, palms waving above alabaster colonnades, fountains leaping crystalline arcs over tiled pools. Children splashed, their laughter chiming off mosaic walls depicting Nymeria's 100 ships. The water smelled faintly of oranges and mint. Prince Doran waited upon a shaded balcony, garbed in loose yellow silks, a scarf of pale lavender draped across knees swollen with gout. His eyes, dark as polished dates, studied the approach of dragons with the deep patience of desert wells. When Daenerys dismounted at the fountain foot, the prince inclined his head by a degree so small it seemed a trick of light. Your grace, he murmured, voice weary but warm. I have waited long for the return of House Targaryen to these shores. Longer than I have lived, my lord, she replied. Yet House Martell's blood was mingled with mine before even my birth. Elia Martell's children should have been dragons. Their deaths cry out for justice. A shadow passed behind Doran's eyes. Grief so old it had worn grooves like wind in canyon walls. Justice. The word dropped into fountain spray like a pebble, rippling. And vengeance. They are sisters who rarely walk the same road, though men often force their hands together. I seek not vengeance only, Daenerys said, but a realm unshackled from lion's greed. Help me unseat them, and the 7 kingdoms will remember Dorne's sacrifice. Doran eased back in his chair and studied the slender queen draped in riding leathers still dusted gold with sand. Many false dawns have passed over these walls. What makes yours true? She raised her hand. Drogon answered, with a sound that cracked air like thunder. He descended onto the open plaza, wings fanning enough wind to scatter petals from the lily-fringed pools. Children shrieked delight, not terror, and reached stubby arms toward the living icon of Rhoynar prophecy. Doran Martell gripped the arms of his chair yet did not flinch. Instead, slow wonder softened the lines of pain. I see truth, he whispered, threefold, living, fire-made flesh. Daenerys offered him her hand. Will Dorne stand with me? The prince placed tremulous fingers into her palm. Heat pulsed between ancient house and reborn power. Dorne has waited too long. We will raise spears for the dragon. Overhead, Regal and Viserion swooped in lazy spirals, scattering sunlight in emerald and ivory shards. Somewhere near the orchard path, Aerion Martell's laughter rang like copper bells. In that moment, alliances forged themselves like steel quenched in sacred water. War councils began beneath colonnades cooled by linen awnings and served by silent sand-steeped servants pouring iced fruit wine. Prince Doran's maester, a gaunt man named Caliot, unrolled maps stitched of goatskin and painted with orange pigment that never faded even when wetted. Dorne's armies were small but hardy, its cavalry unmatched in blistering heat. He spoke of mountain passes where a single 1,000 could hold tenfold longer. Ser Jorah weighed each route, jaw working as though he chewed problems into pulp. We must strike before the Reach moves, Aerion urged, tracing a route along the Greenblood Delta. Highgarden bleeds gold and grain northward, fattening the Lannisters. Cut that artery and the lion starves. Grey Worm tapped an island sigil off Cape Wrath. Storm's End holds strong walls. If we seize its port, we wedge open the narrow sea for our fleet. Seizing demands siege, Caliot cautioned. Siege demands time, and time breeds rumor. The Iron Throne weaves rumor into snares. Daenerys listened, eyes half closed. as plans braided into and out of themselves, a tapestry unfinished. She thought of the Crossed Key's letter promising Citadel secrets. She thought of the Reach's vast host, likely scattered across fields still groaning from harvest. She thought of whispers that Stannis Baratheon lingered on Dragonstone, a stubborn shadow licking old coals. Finally she spoke. Dorne wages quiet war first. Sand steeds raid supply lines along the Dornish marches, wearing no banners but carrying my promise in their hearts. The realm will remember those who fought beside Daenerys. Meanwhile, our fleet, now 10 ships, sails for the Stepstones to hire the Golden Company. Even Ser Jorah's surprise could not blunt the hush that fell. Blackfyre sells words, he breathed. They fought your ancestors once, and lost, she reminded him. Their captain, Harry Strickland, values coin over ancient grudges, or so Illyrio's ravens claim. 1,000 exiles yearning for home. They will take my coin, for I offer more than gold. I offer the fields their grandfathers once tilled. Doran Martell nodded, slow as tide across salt flats. It is bold. Boldness crowns kings, or burns them. Then let us see which. She extended her cup toward him. He touched his goblet to hers. Pomegranate wine shimmered like shared blood between crystal rims. Decision solidified, like the first droplet of quicksilver that knows itself no longer liquid dream but mirrored metal. That night, Daenerys walked the moonlit groves alone save for the soft pad of Shadowcat paws, though no cat walked there. Only Regal prowled overhead, his green wings brushing leaves into silver sighs. In the center of an enclosed courtyard stood a silent pool dark as polished onyx. She knelt, cupped water, and watched the stars shatter in her palm. Soft footsteps approached. Arian Martell's reflection joined hers upon the still surface. You keep many secrets, Dragon Queen, but there is one I would wrest from you. Daenerys did not rise. Children of Oberyn rarely ask permission before wrestling. A ripple of laughter. True. I ask now. When you break King's Landing, who will sit beside you on the throne? The question drifted across water like a leaf, fragile yet capable of hiding hooks. No king sits with a queen on the Iron Throne, Daenerys said softly. It was forged for one seat, though many have tried to crowd it. Dorne wed into dragons once, Arian pressed. My cousin Quentyn rides north even now, seeking your hand, if rumors be true. Rumors. Quentyn Martell, shy and earnest, sailing from Volantis with stolen ships to claim a queen. She felt a pang of pity. Pity was a knife without handle. Hold it and you bleed. If Quentyn finds me, we shall see. But I am no coin to be claimed. Neither am I, Arian said. She slipped a hand beneath her silk scarf and uncovered a full smile, warm as sun-baking figs, fierce as a viper's first strike. Yet we two together might weave chain unbreakable. Daenerys met her gaze through moonlit water. Are you offering alliance or marriage? Both are games of pieces and yield, Arian murmured. We shall play again at dawn. She glided away, skirts whispering. Regal's shadow followed. Daenerys watched her go, feeling the chessboard expand beneath her bare feet. In Essos she had moved pawns and knights upon dusty squares. In Westeros, every piece bore poison-edged teeth. She closed her eyes and listened to dragons breathe. Of all the wars she had imagined, none began with oranges. 2 days later, an envoy from Highgarden, Ser Loras Tyrell himself, rode into Sunspear under the green and gold banners of his house, seeking audience. His arrival preceded by a single raven. In faith of peace, rumor claimed he marched at the head of 700 reachmen, yet only a dozen helmed knights accompanied him through Dorne's gates, each bearing olive branches wrapped in silk. Prince Doran greeted them in the audience hall wreathed with lemon blossom. Daenerys watched from a high alcove screened by latticework of swirling vines. She saw Loras Tyrell kneel, knightly grace incarnate, cloak of golden roses trailing across mosaic tile. She saw his eyes lift, hazel bright as dew, as he met the prince's nod. Storm clouds thicken, Your Highness, Loras said. My Lord Father would rather water gardens than bury sons. He asks, "What blooms do you hope to reap from this desert alliance with the silver-haired queen?" Doran's voice flowed like oil over stone. "Bloom enough to perfume the realm when lions lie rotting. And if the lion offers rose roots in return?" Loras spoke bravely, but behind his courtesy Daenerys heard strain. The reach bleeding armies to the crown, forced into wars it did not cede. Doran's gaze flicked to the latticework behind which she stood. Subtle invitation. Daenerys stepped forward and descended the stair to courtyard floor. Every knight's hand went to hilt. Every servant's breath caught. She felt none of it. She felt only the weight of prophecy ripening. "I am the bloom," she said to Loras Tyrell, her words soft yet carrying. "A rose alive cannot flourish while trampled under lion's paw. Help me break the paw, Ser, and I swear no dragon shall burn Tyrell fields." Loras rose slowly. He studied her as men study comet tails, dazzled, wary of omen. "Are you peace or fire?" "I am both," she replied. "Peace to those who kneel, fire to those who refuse." He bowed low, curls brushing breastplate. "I shall bear your words to my lady mother. Tell her also," Daenerys added, "that roses smell sweetest when watered in dragon's shadow." It was a threat and promise entwined. Loras's lips quirked in something dangerously close to admiration. "As you command, your grace." He departed Sunspear with dawn, riding hard for Old Town. Daenerys watched his banner fade, and new Tyrell coin now teetered upon scales. War smelled nearer, acrid as forge smoke chewing iron. Weeks slid by like beads on prayer cords. The Golden Company answered Illyrio's ravens. Captain Strickland had accepted terms: 10,000 swords, 100 elephants, 20 trebuchets, passage guaranteed via stepstones by Lyseni bribes. They pledged arrival upon Cape Wrath within 2 moons. Quentyn Martell's ship, battered but intact, limped into Sunspear's harbor, its young prince gaunt and eyes of fire with impossible hope. He knelt to Daenerys in the lemon-scented court. "I came for your hand," he said, voice barely above reed pipe tremor. She lifted him kindly, kissed his cheek, and told him the world was larger than any pledge inked upon father's parchment. Quentyn tried to smile. Tears guttered instead. But he remained, serving as envoy to the Stormlords along the Marrow crossings. Beyond Dorne, tides of rumor rose. Stannis Baratheon abandoned Dragonstone for the Wall. Robb Stark marched on the twins for Edmure Tully's wedding. Balon Greyjoy fell from a rope bridge and his daughter Asha dueled for Seastone Chair. The realm fractured along every coastline. Only King's Landing remained unbroken, lashed together by Lannister gold and fear, both commodities she meant to melt. Beneath Sunspear's vaults, Daenerys studied Valyrian scrolls pried from citadel coffers by the Crosskeys conspirators. Treatises on Wildfire's limits, diagrams of Aerys' forgotten caches beneath the September of Baelor. She learned where green hell still slept, where flames might birth new terror should Cersei ever seek her father's madness. Knowledge tasted like iron filings on her tongue, bitter but sharper than any sword. She trained daily with spear and arak, Grey Worm her patient tutor, Recaro her exuberant sparring partner. Sweat stripped illusions of frailty. At night, she walked ramparts where sea wind flung salt into her hair. Drogon perched colossal beside her, his breath furling like black-red silk. "Soon," she whispered to him. "Soon we fly north for real, not dream." He rumbled answer, a sound half purr, half thunder. In the depths of his molten eyes she glimpsed reflection, queen crowned in firelight. War's first cry reached them on a shaft of noon sun. Raven from the marches, sealed with Martell orange wax. Lord Ironwood's scouts reported a Lannister host 20,000 strong, commanded by Ser Adam Marbrand, marching south through the Prince's Pass. They meant to break Dorne before the Golden Company ever set foot on Westeros. "Too swift," Ser Jorah muttered over council table. "Tywin bleeds armies to 4 fronts, yet he finds 20,000? Gold summons wolves," Prince Doran said. "And Marbrand is no fool. He hunts before being hunted." Daenerys laid palm upon the map, fingers spanning the narrow gorge named Sandstone Shatter. "This pass is steep, yes? Sheer cliffs on both sides. 300 feet of unforgiving rock, Caliot confirmed. She looked to Grey Worm. How many Unsullied can hold that throat? 50 spears can hold forever. He answered without pride, only certainty. She turned to Doran. Send your light horse to feint at Marbrand's flanks. Draw him into the pass. My Unsullied block the mouth. Meanwhile, she glanced skyward out the open lattice where blue heaven blazed. Dragons hunt from above. Silence curdled the air. Ariane's smile most dangerous yet. Lion stew, she murmured. Prince Doran's sigh was whined through dry reeds. So blood begins. Let it wash clean. They rode north with haste enough to blur day into dust whirl. 50 Unsullied, shields painted burnished copper to match desert stone. 50 Dothraki archers bearing weeping bows. Daenerys astride a smoky mare named Quaithe Whisper, whose hooves scarcely made sound. Drogon flapped above, his wings stirring dunes into miniature storms. Viserion and Regal trailed like twin scouts of whale-sized bats. The pass narrowed to a ragged slit between towering ramparts. Echoes there magnified every clink of armor into thunder. Grey Worm arrayed his phalanx at the southern throat, spears angled to form living wall. Daenerys climbed a switchback goat trail to a vantage ledge where broken pillars suggested some Rhoynar watchpost long crumbled. From that height she watched war unfold like slow mosaic. Ironwood light horse darted from ravine mouth, slinging javelins, harrying Marbrand's outriders deeper, always deeper. Lannister banners glimmered red gold against beige rock. Trumpets blared. Ranks shuffled shoulder-tight inside stone jaws. When the vanguard reached the bottleneck, Grey Worm's command rang. Shields locked, spears bristled. Drogon dived. Fire lanced. Stone glowed. Men screamed. Long, ragged vowels that tried to become words but burned to ash before leaving throats. Dragon flame roared through the narrow chasm, sucking air, igniting pitch casks secreted by earlier scouts. A pillar of orange soared skyward, its heat slamming Dany's cheeks even at her height. She felt no triumph. A hollow opened inside her chest, like egg after hatchling claws through shell. Remember the bells, she thought. But these men marched to kill her kin. Bells had not yet rung. Choices remained. She raised her right hand, the signal for retreat. Drogon wheeled upward, flame fading. Below, chaos reigned. Marbrand attempted to rally, pressing cohorts forward into Fireslick Gorge, thinking dragons spent. He did not see Regal till wings snapped open behind buttes, or Viserion diving from the sun's glare. Twin torrents of emerald and pale fire blanketed rear and flank. Spears splintered, shields melted. Men stampeded backward only to collide with still advancing front. In the choking smoke, unsullied spears struck once, twice, then stepped aside. Efficiency unmarred by hatred. The Dothraki rained arrows from cliff edges, war cries ripped to shreds by updrafts. Marbrand's host broke like pottery flung from battlement. Some attempted to scale cliffs. Shale betrayed them. They fell. Others bolted south, weapons discarded, throats raw with terror. A third, smaller knot, formed shield wall around their commander, Adam Marbrand shining in gilded plate. He bellowed curses at dragons overhead, the last lion roaring against sky. Daenerys watched him, firelight dancing on steel. She felt pity again, lightning sharp. She signaled. Drogon swept lower, yet withheld flame. Regal and Viserion hovered like twin judgments. Daenerys descended the narrow path, the ground warm beneath Saul's. Grey Worm met her, shield spattered with ash. No blood. The pass is ours, blood of my blood. She nodded. Bring Ser Adam to me. He obeyed. 2 Unsullied disarmed the knight, though Marbrand resisted till his gauntlets blackened beneath dragon smoke's soot. When he knelt before Daenerys, she smelled burned hair and singed pride. You commanded brave men, she said. He spat dust. You roasted brave men. I spared more than I burned. I blocked their retreat only so we might speak. She extended a waterskin. Marbrand's eyes, lion amber, flicked from her hand to Drogon perched atop ridge, tail coiling. He drank despite himself. "Carry word to Tywin Lannister," Daenerys continued. "Tell him the skies belong to dragons again. Tell him I will not burn those who bend the knee. Tell him I offer peace. If he surrenders king, throne, and crown." Marbrand laughed, husky with smoke. "Tywin Lannister does not surrender. Then he will burn," she signaled. Unsullied returned blade to him, unbroken. "Go, alive, so your tale rings true." Marbrand rose, swaying. He sheathed sword, offered grudging nod. "You are not your father." "No," she agreed. "But I remember his lesson. Fear clears paths that love alone cannot." He mounted a riderless horse, galloped north, trailing smoke like bruised pennant. Daenerys watched until dust swallowed him. Only then did she exhale. The hollow inside remained. Grey Worm stood beside her. "You spared enemy. Mercy is choice. Mercy is justice tempered," she said. "If war is to birth new world, it must not devour all hope in the womb." Dothraki riders hooped victory beyond cliffs. Dragons roared skyward, claiming kill. The setting sun painted the pass red, too red, and night seeped in cool and heavy. Word of the Dragon Queen's triumph raced faster than ravens, spread by scorched survivors, by small folk who glimpsed winged shadows crossing sunset, by lords frightened awake from dreams of lions devouring roses. In Highgarden, Lady Olenna's laughter rattled teacups. In Storm's End, a young lord named Edric Storm whispered prayers to the mother at first report of silver-haired savior. At Riverrun, Robb Stark's bannermen debated alliance, remembering his grandfather's oath to Aerys broken by wildfire and madness. In King's Landing, Cersei shattered a decanter of Arbor Gold and screamed at her mirror until shards reflected 20 faces of rage. Tywin Lannister read Ser Adam's account by candlesmoke. He closed his eyes, exhaled long, and summoned Qyburn with quiet voice. "Prepare every scorpion. Search the alchemist's vaults for wildfire casks, and find me a singer skilled at writing dirges for dragons." But wildfire listened to no man once set free. In a forgotten crypt beneath Rhaenys' hill, rats scurried over cracked clay pots seeping green ichor, waked by tremors of fate. Daenerys returned to Sunspear amid banners newly sewn with the three-headed dragon quartered beside the Sunspear. Street urchins chased her procession, pretending to be dragons, roaring fiery breath. She tossed them copper stars etched with her sigil, first coins minted in Dorne for a Targaryen queen in over a century. That night, Prince Doran hosted a feast of blood oranges and spiced lamb. Bards sang of Nymeria crossing and dragons reborn. Arion Martell danced with Recaro beneath lanterns shaped as burning stars. Quentyn watched, cheeks warmed by pomegranate wine and deeper uncertainty. Daenerys sat at Prince Doran's side but ate little. Her mind chased the next moves. Golden Company's impending landfall, Tyrell Court's decision, whispers of Ironborn mutiny, Stannis' northern gambit. The board groaned under pieces. When music faded and torches guttered, she stepped onto a moonlit balcony overlooking restless sea. Drogon slumbered upon a turret, his breath stirring penance into sleepy flutters. She leaned on cool stone, eyes following dark wave crests. Footsteps padded. Arion appeared, swirling a carafe of blue grape spirits. "Drink," she said, filling twin cups. Victory's first taste should be bold. Daenerys raised the cup but paused. "Victory has not yet been won. Perhaps," Arianne allowed, "but its flavor can be foretold." She tapped rims. Together they drank, sweet, fierce, lingering heat cascading down throats. Arianne set cup aside. "My father will ask you tomorrow to name formal terms of alliance. Marriage, titles, trust. Know this, I will not be traded for treaties. I choose. You and I are alike in that," Daenerys said. "Then choose with me." Arianne's hand brushed Daenerys' wrist, electric, resolute. "Let suns and dragons birth new dawn." The world swayed, not from spirits but from possibility colossal as Drogon's wingspan. For an instant, Daenerys saw a throne no longer solitary. Two queens ruling a realm forged in fire and scorch of desert sun. She closed her hand over Ariane's. "Let us begin with tomorrow," she murmured. "And the day after, and the day after, until the realm forgets it was ever ruled by fear alone." In the distance, a wave shattered against seawall, white spray catching moonlight like silver scales. Above, Drogon opened an eye the color of forged steel, watched his mother, then closed it again, satisfied. Night deepened, but the horizon held a line of ember where dawn would soon ignite. And when that dawn came, the dragon and the sun would rise together, blistering the dark that had for so long wrapped Westeros in cold, lion-clawed night. The sun had not yet begun its climb when the camp beneath Sunspear stirred to muffled cymbals of armor and the hiss of whetstones on steel. Dew beaded the latticework of command tents and pearl-tipped the fronds of lemon trees, turning the grove into 1,000 tiny mirrors that caught the first blush of dawn. Daenerys Targaryen rose from her pallet before the pink had fully cracked the horizon. She donned a jerkin of supple Dornish leather dyed a deep dragon black, laced up the front by Erie's deft fingers, and buckled on a sword belt whose plain steel buckle bore no gems, only the incised sigil of her house. Outside, Grey Worm and his shield-bearers formed a silent corridor toward the waiting courtyard where Prince Doran's council would gather. She stepped through the veil of morning cool and out into the desert hush. Rhaegal spiraled overhead, the beat of his wings scattering the last of the dawn birds. Viserion angled west to harry a gull that had strayed too close to the parapets. Drogon lingered unseen, though molten shadows crept beneath the highest turret like a coal-tinged promise. In the cactus-lined courtyard, benches of cedar had been arranged around an oval mosaic depicting the Rhoynar voyage. The tiles underfoot warmed quickly in the sun's rise, yet the council formed in a hush of gravitas that seemed to draw shade from the very air. Arian Martell arrived in scarlet and orange silks that clung like second skin, hair plaited with a thin chain of hammered gold suns. Quentyn stood across from her, shoulders square despite the sleepless circles beneath his eyes, hands clasped tight on the pommel of a short arming sword he barely seemed ready to use. Ser Jorah, dust-caked and solid, leaned one hip against a stone bench, squinting into new glare. Maester Caliot unrolled fresh scrolls beside Prince Doran's wheeled chair, whose wooden spokes squealed lightly as attendants nudged him into place. Daenerys greeted them each by name. There were fewer courtesies now. The heat of impending war scorched away all etiquette save that which served purpose. When they had settled, Prince Doran gestured and the maester cleared his throat. Ravens came at eventide. Caliot's voice was calm water poured in earthen jars, slow and measured. One from Grassy Vale in the Reach, one from Rain House on Cape Wrath, and one from the Stepstones Fleet. He passed the slips of parchment, each sealed with broken wax. Daenerys opened the first. Lady Olenna's strawberry-scented seal. In precise lettering, the Queen of Thorns offered grain stores at Bitterbridge, covert safe harbor at Tumbleton, and an invitation for a discreet meeting with her grandson, the new Lord Mason-waiting, should Daenerys wish to discuss pruning the noxious weed that strangles the garden. Olenna did not specify terms, only hinted that roses bloomed best under gentle fire and adequate manure. The second letter bore the sigil of House Estermont, a green sea turtle on an argent field. Lord Aemon Estermont pledged 500 spears and passage for the Golden Company at Greenstones Bay, if the Dragon Queen would recognize his grandniece as Lady of Rain House after the conflict. Ser Jorah grunted at the promise. Estermonts were minor, but their isle overlooked the narrowest crossing between the Stormlands and Crownlands. The third Raven's message was penned in a spidery Braavosi hand. Captain Harry Strickland reported successful departure from Tyrosh with 82 ships, 10,000 infantry, and indeed the famed elephants, though no more than 14 had survived the rough voyage through the Stepstones gales, and set sail for Cape Wrath. An appended note in Illyrio's broad strokes teased that should Westerosi ports prove closed, he had other doors eager to open to dragons. Silence knitted the council as each absorbed the triad of boon, bargain, and burden. At last, Doran turned to Daenerys. His gout-swollen fingers rested on the scroll bearing Strickland's mark. The Golden Company will want a staging ground secure from Lannister reprisal. Greenstone is less than a fortnight's sail from King's Landing but vulnerable to a fleet action out of Blackwater Bay. You must strike in 2 places before the Lion can focus. Arianne tapped the mosaic's rendering of the Rose Road. Lady Olenna lures us north. If her offer is sincere, the Reach could feed 3 wars. But Highgarden's strength will not march until she is certain the dragon's claws can pierce steel. Quentyn's voice, hesitant, found purchase. Let the elephants land in Estermont, fortify the island, then ferry across to march on Storm's End. If we hold the Stormlands, Casterly Rock must either split forces or cede the field. Storm's End never fell even to dragons. Ser Jorah's reminder was flint against tinder. Argilac the Arrogant's walls are thicker than a whale's skull. A siege there could mire us a year while Tywin Lannister sharpens knives for our backs. Daenerys closed her eyes a moment, letting the swirl of advice and caution settle like silt in still water. Beyond the parapet, she heard the seethe of the sea and the distant shriek of Viserion's triumph over the gull. She felt the old memory of the House of the Undying prickle her skin. A stone beast crawling from a smoking tower, a red sword in a blue hand, a line of ghosts kneeling in steel and snow. Prophecy was a wheel, dizzying and never straight, but she had learned to find the spoke that pointed truest. Storm's End will fall, she said, opening her eyes. Not to siege engines, but to wings. Wildfire hides beneath King's Landing, not in Argilac's gutted kitchens. The castle stones will not burn, but its garrison will know fear when the sky darkens. She met Ser Jorah's gaze until even his doubt flickered. I will take Drogon to Storm's End. Rhaegal and Viserion remain here to guard Prince Doran and Sunspear. Caliot sputtered. A queen must not ride to the front alone, your grace. If Drogon is felled, then Westeros claims a crown forged in cowardice. Daenerys' words rang like bronze on bell. The realm has seen enough kings and queens who hide behind walls. I am blood of the dragon. My children are my shield. Arianne flashed a viper's smile. And I shall ride beside her. Quentyn's intake of breath was audible. Doran lifted one eyebrow at his daughter, but she matched his stare with the unspoken argument of 28 unwed years and a lifetime of thwarted agency. At length the prince nodded. Take my fastest sand steed and 50 of our hottest spears, he said. Quentyn will remain to treat with the Golden Company and Lady Olenna. Ser Jorah, you will meet the elephants at Greenstone. Grey Worm, he paused, eyes ticking to Daenerys for confirmation. She inclined her head. Grey Worm will command the unsullied garrison at Sunspear until we return. Orders sown, the council bled out into the glare of full morning. Daenerys made for the stables where Whisper stamped impatient at her tether. Irri and Jiki adjusted saddle straps, while Ricardo tightened the girth of his own red stallion, Bladewind. The Dothraki blood riders had argued for 300 outriders, but the queen insisted on swiftness, not spectacle. They settled on 100, though their offended pride loaded every quiver and honed every arak tenfold. Drogon landed beyond the stables, the impact rattling the jars of scented oil along the wall. His scales had grown deeper red in Dorne, the color of fresh split garnet, ridges jet black as obsidian. He bent his neck low as Daenerys approached, nostrils flaring at the scent of horseflesh. The mare shied. Daenerys calmed her with a murmur in Valyrian, then laid a hand on Drogon's warm, leathery jaw. Fly with me, she whispered. His answering growl rumbled through the courtyard. She mounted Whisper first. Drogon snapped open his wings with a crack like a sail catching hurricane. Dothraki eyes followed every muscle ripple with religious intensity. The Unsullied stood sentinel, expressionless but for the dilation of pupils reflecting flame. Before the noon bells of Sunspear had finished their single flourish, the column rode out the shadowed gate. Dragons wheeling overhead, horses striking up plumes of golden dust, banners furled into silence. Fury Road, so the Dornish smallfolk named the narrow track that climbed the stony escarpments of the Broken Arm. It was a road of vulture shadows and brittle scrub, but its vantage commanded the sea lanes north of Cape Wrath. Daenerys rode at the column's fore, Arianne beside her, the sand steeds' hooves scraping sparks from flint. Mid-afternoon heat hammered them, yet wind off the inlet carried hints of myrtle that softened the bake. Far below, whitecaps flecked the wine-dark sea. Beyond lay the faint suggestion of sail masts, perhaps carracks bound for Old Town, perhaps Lannister patrols. That night they encamped amid tumbled boulders. No fires, Dothraki brewed tea in helmets heated with stones baked all day in the sun. Daenerys shared a skin of cucumber water with Arianne as stars stabbed the dark. "Before the dragons hatched," Arianne said quietly, gaze fixed on some memory Daenerys could not see, "I dreamed of sailing to Volantis to Lys, anywhere beyond Sunspear's fruit walls, setting fire to my father's parchments and making myself Nymeria reborn. Then the red comet came, and I watched its tail burn and thought, here is a woman who will break the wheel of waiting." Daenerys sipped coolness, felt it settle behind her breastbone like a droplet of hope. "I waited too," she answered. "My brother's rages, Illyrio's schemes, Khal Drogo's pyre, they were all cages. The world breaks locks. We must decide what to do once we walk free." Arianne's gaze slid to the dragon curled against the ridge, breathing embers in sleep. "Storm's end will be a key. The whispering lords of the Reach listen to wind's direction. Show them the wind breathes fire. Thunder without rain shattered conversation." Drogon surged up the cliff, wings stirring a gale. He banked once, sniffing the air. Daenerys felt a prickle along her neck. Arianne reached for the dagger at her girdle. From the western horizon, a faint shine, lanterns at sea. Daenerys narrowed her eyes. More than a dozen lights, too steady for fishing boats, too strung for merchantry. Warships. She stood, motioned Ricardo. He sprinted to the ridge with a spyglass of polished horn. Moments later he slid down, hair streaming like banner cloth. Red sails, Khaleesi. Gold lions on black. 14, maybe 16. Arianne swore in Rhoynar. The king's fleet patrols these waters but seldom west of Shipbreaker Bay. They must bear message for the Mander. "No," Daenerys said. "They hunt the Golden Company or us." She strode to Drogon, laying a hand on his shoulder ridge. "Time to feed." The camp roused like kicked beehive. Dothraki mounted, unsullied spread into shield crescent. Daenerys vaulted to Drogon's neck, gripping braided leather straps Ricardo had fashioned. Arianne gave a wry half-bow. "Try not to roast the turtles of Greenstone." The queen smiled grimly. "Only those wearing lion skins." Drogon launched. Air became river, cool and fast. Stars wheeled. Sea below glittered obsidian rippled with silver. The Warfleet's lanterns glowed like a bracelet upon dark wrist. As they neared, Daenerys counted 15 hulls. 6 longships, 3 dramans, 6 compact sail galleys flying Lord Paxter Redwine's grape cluster standard but overrun with Lannister pennons. Paxter's fleet, commandeered by the crown. She guided Drogon in silence, high above the tallest mast. The wind carried faint shouts, the creak of rigging, the reek of pitch and oil. On the flagship, a scorpion mounted at the bow tracked sky lazily. Spotters not yet alarmed. Daenerys closed her fist. Drogon folded wings. They plummeted. A deckhand looked up, mouth forming a silent prayer too late. Drogon's roar drowned cannon of the gods. Fire unfurled, a banner of annihilation. The flagship's forecastle blossomed into molten petals. Ropes snapped, sails erupted. Men became silhouettes dancing inside orange furnace. She climbed skyward, banking toward the next galley. Sailors scrambled. Bells clanged. A scorpion bolt hissed past, trailing rope. Drogon devoured length with one snap, the iron head clattering on his teeth like acorn. Flame answered. The galley's midships blackened, timbers twisting in agony, masts collapsing in burning crosses. Below, panic spread fleet-wide. 2 longships rammed each other, attempting opposite turns. A galley's crew leapt overboard, feeding sharks roused by drumbeats of ruin. Yet 3 vessels swung catapults around, launching jars of wildfire stolen from King's Landing stores, sticky green nightmares. One jar burst perilously close. Drogon rolled, but splatters hissed across his left wing. The membrane smoked. He shrieked more in rage than pain. Daenerys' heart seized. She pressed her cheek to his scales, whispered soothing Valyrian while steering him upward into cooler wind. The wound glowed but did not catch. Wildfire needed oxygen. Drogon's furious ascent starved the smear before it spread. She tasted sulfur and fear at the back of her throat but forced calm. Circling, she spotted the Drummond that had launched the jar. Sails half-furled, deck bristling with another catapult jar ready. She angled Drogon in furious dive. This time she aimed not at hull but at sea around it. Fire boiled water into vapor. Steam engulfed the ship in scalding shroud. Sailcloth ignited. The wildfire jar, still on sling, cracked from sudden heat, engulfing crew and siege engine alike. Green and orange flames danced matrimony. Silent screams rose, swallowed by hissing curtains. One by one, the remaining ships turned tail, sails straining as they fled northward. Daenerys considered pursuit but recalled the column below and the miles to Storm's End still ahead. She banked back to shore, leaving the sea strewn with cinders. On the ridge, riders raised spears in exultation as Drogon landed amid windstorm gusts. Sparks cascaded from his wounds but no flame caught. Gray smoke spiraled into night like incense. Daenerys dismounted, hands shaking only after her boots found stone. Aerion gripped her elbow, steadying her. Elephant trumpets could not have roared louder, the Dornish princess said, eyes gleaming with battle's amber. They'll roar soon enough, Daenerys replied. Tonight I needed only a dragon. Ricardo inspected the wing, clicking tongue at singe. Drogon strong, wing heel, but no more wildfire. We burn lions before they burn us. Daenerys laid, her forehead against Drogon's warm hide. No fire burns hotter than ours. They reached Greenstone 3 days later, ragged promontory crowned with a squat keep buttressed by lime-washed walls. Lord Estermont met them at the gate flanked by archers in turtle-shell helms. His weather-lined face splitting in awe at the sight of Drogon perched atop the eastern barbican. He stammered welcome, though his men glared white-knuckled at the dragon shadow draped across battlements. The Golden Company fleet had not yet arrived, but sails flecked the southern horizon. 20 galleys under Tyroshi colors escorting bulky transports. Daenerys ordered sentinel fires lit along the cliffs. 3 at a time, the cloud signal Illyrio had taught her that promised safe harbor. While they waited, she inspected Storm's End from afar. It lay 40 leagues north along the coast, a hulking silhouette jutting from a promontory where waves shattered themselves into perpetual thunder. Even at distance she felt its defiance, as though the castle itself snarled at approachers. The garrison flew Baratheon gold on black stags, but crimson banners drooped beneath. 2 rose petals of House Florent, traitors replaced after Stannis' flight. Some Florents remained within, hating their Tyrell overlords enough to treat with dragons if given chance. At dusk, she convened war council in the chapel of Greenstone's keep, a humble room of cedar pews, stained glass depicting the mother washing sailors' feet. Ser Jorah joined them, having marched elephants from the beach where they disembarked in rumbling procession. The great beast's arrival caused such commotion that Lord Estermont's hounds hid under tables and children screamed delight. Harry Strickland entered last, hair greased into orderly rows beneath plumed helm held against his breast. He knelt, awkward with knee joints creaking from years of marches across Essos. "Your Grace," he said in common lilted with free city vowels. "The Golden Company is yours, contracts signed, coin counted, oaths sworn before the dead Blackfires whose bones we ferry with us." Daenerys bid him rise. "Your elephants will anchor our vanguard. We march at first light. The castle must fall within the day." Strickland bit a lip. "Our crossbows punch heavier than old Storm's End gate, yet walls such thickness. Not by engines." She pointed skyward through the open rose window. "By terror. Dragons will breach hearts sooner than stone." Ser Jorah produced a rough plan. Drogon would strafe the seaward gates at dawn, but instead of fire he would unleash fear, shriek, rake parapets, menace but not yet burn. Meanwhile, Golden Company sappers would feint at the postern on landward curtain, enticing defenders to shift. At mid-morning, while confusion reigned, Daenerys would fly over the central drum tower and drop a single barrel of Estermont's novelty, smoke-room pepper oil, captured from Qarth. When ignited, it produced a stinking fog that irritated eyes and lungs for hours but harmed little else. With defenders blind and choking, the elephants would batter the gate under cover of unsullied shields. Dothraki swarms would flood through. If that fails, you're finished. Drogon burns the keep by noon. No one argued. The simplicity sang cruel harmony with the queen's fire-touched presence. Strickland scratched at a scar on his jaw. It is audacious, a siege in half a day. But bold strokes paint legends. Legends win crowns, Daenerys said. Streaks of rose and blood lit the eastern rim when Drogon lifted from Greenstone's courtyard. Daenerys on his back, Aerion riding behind, arms clasped round the queen's waist. Below, 10,000 elephants and soldiers assembled amid drifted fog from the river valley, banners snapping like kites caught in tidal wind. The flight to Storm's End lasted less than an hour. Salt wind whipped hair to streamers. Aerion pressed cheeks to Daenerys' spine, laughter vibrating through both as Drogon harried seabirds for sport. Then the fortress loomed, a titan's fist of black stone hammered by surf. At Drogon's first screech, alarm bells clanged inside the walls. Crossbowmen scurried. Scorpions clanked into position. But Daenerys kept Drogon high, out of bolt range, letting his shadow traverse ramparts like omen. Foghorns blared from battlements, yet no missile soared. Defenders waited, confused by the dragon's refusal to dive. She circled thrice, each loop lower until she could glimpse wide eyes behind visor slits. On the fourth pass, she had Drogon roar directly above the gatehouse. Men flung shields overhead. Some collapsed to knees, praying. No flame came, only deafening cry that cracked courage like rotting timber. She banked inland, pretending to withdraw. That was the cue. Beyond the rise, Golden Company banners crested Black Skull, Golden Ring. Sappers advanced under pavises, torches unlit, while knights in elephant mask helms fanned to flanks. Trumpets sounded from the walls, calling men to landward defense. The seaward gate thinned, exactly as scripted. Daenerys wheeled back, this time hugging wavetops. The barrel of pepper oil, slung beneath Drogon's belly by iron netting, swayed dangerously. She guided him over the curtain wall, heart hammering as scorpion bolts clacked upward. 2 whistled past. A third grazed a scale, sparking. Drogon hissed smoke, but Daenerys steadied him with voice soft as lullaby. Over the drum tower she pulled a lever. The barrel detached, plummeted, burst upon slate roof. Black crust broke, orange tongues licked. Within seconds, acrid yellow vapor fumed through shutter slits. Soldiers coughed, masks worthless, horns faltered. Elephants then, their trumpet blast rolled like thunder following lightning. The beasts lumbered up the causeway, unsullied spears bristling between legs, shields overlapping above mahouts. At 50 paces they broke trot, tusks capped with iron. The gate's oaken planks trembled, hinges squealing protest. Second impact cracked beams, third sundered latch. With a roar of ancient cedar ripping, the maw yawned. Dothraki arrows streaked overhead, black rain. Golden Company pikes punched through first ring of defenders. Daenerys circled, ready to ignite should retreat turn rout. Yet resistance melted. Garrison men, Florent and Crown loyalists both, dropped arms, stumbling half-blind from pepper smog. A lone knight in gilt antlers attempted rally at the postern. Rikaro's Khopesh found the gap in his gorget. The rest knelt. By mid-morning, the stag banner fell. Daenerys landed in the courtyard atop basalt flagstones slicked by sea spray, not blood. Fewer died than in any siege the castle had known. She strode beneath the arch where Orys Baratheon once carved first kingly oath, now weathered but still proud. She touched the letters, feeling vibrations of waves pounding hollow chambers deep within the rock. Aerion joined her, eyes watering from residual irritant but shining triumph. "Storm's End bows," she said, voice husky. "The garden will hear thunder." Strickland approached, helm under arm. "Your prisoners await judgment, your grace." Also, a delegate requesting parley. Name, Alice Florent. Daenerys recalled whispers. Stannis' queen's cousin, once cast into dungeons for treason, now reinstated. Bring her. They met in the Shield Hall, where tapestries of Qarth the Green hung beside those of Argilac's final stand. Alice Florent knelt, hair the color of storm clouds shot silver, wrists bound by golden cord. "I served Renly," she began, voice barely above churn of surf. "When he fell, I served Stannis. When he sailed north, I was left to patch the walls Lannisters battered. Left, but not blind. The people whisper of dragons. I see now they speak truth." Daenerys unclasped the cord. "Service to dead kings need not chain you to dying causes. Rise." Alice rose, flexing numb fingers. "Will you spare Storm's End? I will garrison it with those who pledge fealty. Others may go free." She glanced at Ser Jorah. He produced parchment. "Swear by the Seven or by the Mother Royne, your choice, that you recognize my claim. In return, food stores remain untouched, small folk protected, taxes fair." Alice accepted Quill. "I swear." Tyrion once told her in Lost Dream, "Victory is the easy sister, peace, the tricksy one." She felt that now, coaxing oaths from mouths still quivering. Yet each signature braided a stronger rope toward the throne. At sunset, the dragon banner unfurled from Storm's End's highest tower. Golden light painted its 3 heads as though already wreathed in flame. Gulls cried omen, waves applauded. News galloped faster than wind-ridden ravens. At Highgarden, Lady Olenna ordered a supper of lamprey pies and invited the High Septon to taste each first, laughing at his quail-like squawks. She read that Storm's End had fallen without slaughter, that Daenerys offered clemency, and that a dragon perched upon the drum tower as docile as any maiden's hawk. The Queen of Thorns dipped fingers into lemon sauce, nodded to herself and said, "Prepare the roads. The roses will march." At Casterly Rock, Tywin received same report while pausing at midday meal. He did not curse, did not throw the goblet. He merely folded the parchment, placed it beside Trencher, and said to Maester Pycelle, "Send ravens to Old Town. Demand the Citadel deliver every treatise on slaying dragons." Pycelle quavered that such tomes were fragmented, buried. Tywin stare-struck like crossbow bolt. "Dig," he said. In the Red Keep, Cersei paced Queen's ballroom, stomping train of crimson silk. Qyburn tried to soothe with talk of stronger scorpions. She slapped him, then ordered wildfire casks moved from sept vaults to city walls. Lord Haleen protested, saying unstable. She threatened to test a jar on his apprentices. Haleen bowed. Across the narrow sea at Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon read the Raven by guttering torch. His jaw, always iron, tightened further. Ser Davos said quietly, "A dragon queen raises dragons. Kingships crumble in her flight path." Stannis stalked to parapet, waves smashing below. He looked north, where snows thickened, then south toward storm coasts. 2 wars beckoned, men enough for one. The king clenched black-skinned fingers. "Half from frostbite, half from old char. The realm is a leaky ship," he told Davos. "We plug one hole, another bursts. We'll hoist no sails until the Lord of Light decides where best to burn." In the tall towers of Old Town, the Archmesters convened emergency synod. Scrollwork of Valyria lay scattered, Arametan but legible to those who spoke dead tongues. Some insisted the dragons would fade like embers starved of wood. Others suspected alchemical rebirth. One old man, Archmaester Marwyn, snorted and left, muttering of far-flung seas and glass candles burning bright. That night, a pale green flame appeared in a window of the high tower and burned till dawn. Daenerys spent 3 days securing Storm's End. The elephants drank barrels of river water, stamping training yards to mud. Unsullied replaced stag sigils with 3-headed dragons on every shield. Dothraki rode breakneck along the battlements, daring the drop to surf far below. Aerion took to walking the ramparts barefoot at dusk, letting spray kiss her ankles, singing Rhoynar ballads of desert ships. Once, Daenerys joined her. They spoke of Nymeria again, of 10,000 ships burned so her people could never retreat. The queen wondered whether she would soon need to burn ships too, to keep the Reach's roses and Dorne's suns pointed only forward. Ravens came bearing seals of enthralling variety. Hightower, Tarly, Rowan, even the black fish of Riverrun curiously stamped with dire wolf claws. Most promised neutrality. Some courted alliance. None swore fealty outright. Daenerys stacked each scroll like playing pieces in a game whose board she now saw entire. 7 kingdoms fractured into 100 shards. A hammer blow might shatter further. A gentle squeeze might fuse. Grey Worm arrived on the 4th sunrise with 600 unsullied reinforcements, marching double time up the causeway. Behind him, Quentyn Martell led 200 Dornish spears and a single wooden chest wrapped in scarlet cloth. He knelt at Daenerys' feet in the fortress yard. "From Sun Spear," he said, voice cracking, "a gift my father kept since wedding day." He opened the chest. Inside lay a dagger of strange pale glass, edges shimmering like the line between water and air, dragon glass, and beside it, a ring of wrought silver and red gold twined, a double serpent swallowing its tails. "Nymeria's ring," Aerion gasped, touching her throat. Quentyn bowed low. "Prince Doran bids you wear it when you take the Iron Throne." Daenerys lifted the ring. It felt warm, as though forged in living fire. She slid it upon her forefinger, felt weight of 1,000 ships burned so none could sail away. A hush fell. Elephants stirred restlessly, perhaps sensing tectonic shift in air. Drogon, roost upon the broken ramp of the siege tower, lifted head and uttered low growl that echoed off sea-washed rock. She turned to her captains. "Within a fortnight, we march north. Tyrell harvest wagons will refill our stores at Bitterbridge. The Golden Company will cross the Mander with us. Dorne will strike at the Prince's Pass again, harrying Lannister's supply. When the first leaf of autumn turns, dragons will shadow King's Landing." Cheers thundered across courtyard, but Daenerys' voice cut above them. "Steel edge of destiny. We will take the city with as little blood as men allow. We will break chains the lions forged. We will plant seeds that never wither. And when the Iron Throne is ours, it will sit not on skulls but on justice." Dothraki war cried. Unsullied spears hammered shields. Elephants trumpeted until the walls themselves seemed to quake. Yet Daenerys felt the memory of that hollow in her chest again, the space where mercy lived. Storm's End had shown her ruins need not be charred. She raised arms. Silence fell reeling. "I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen," she said, voice low but unbreakable. "First of my name, the unburnt breaker of chains. I will take what is mine with fire and blood. But the realm we build after shall be watered with tears of joy, not grief. Mark this well. If you follow not a conqueror alone, but a maker of tomorrow." Then from Parapet Tower a horn sounded, 3 long notes rolling like distant thunder. All eyes turned seaward where a white raven soared, wings catching sunlight. White ravens flew only from the citadel, and only for one message: the changing of seasons. Maester Caliot's breath caught. "Autumn," he whispered. "Summer dies." A shiver of portent drifted through soldiers and stone. Summer, the long season, ended now. A new wind rose from the north, carrying chill, not yet frost but promise. Daenerys looked to Drogon. Heat radiated from his scales, life against looming cold. She thought of Snow's Stannis battled, of ghosts kneeling in steel and snow as she had once seen, of a wall old as the world holding doom at bay. Her war for the throne might not be the realm's only salvation. But first, King's Landing. She mounted the steps to the highest turret, stood beneath fluttering dragon banner. From there she saw miles of green water, the Reach's golden fields yonder, and faint ash rising from pyres of Lannister ships she had burned nights past. She turned her face to wind heavy with approaching autumn. "Fly," she told Drogon. He launched, red wings blazing against new season sky, a spark made flesh. Behind him, Regal and Viserion rose from Sunspear days' ride away, drawn by blood bond and battle hunger. 3 dragons in converging arcs, painting trails across clouds. The roar that followed was not thunder. It was announcement. It was the cry of an age ending. And across Westeros, from pious septa in Maidenpool to scheming Sellsword in the Stepstones, every soul looked up or dreamt of fire that night, feeling something vast shift in their bones, the knowledge that the wheel had begun its last, unstoppable turn beneath the wings of a silver-haired queen.